Chosen one, why do you wake at 3 a.m., heart pounding, with a feeling you can't name? Why does your soul ache for something you've never seen, yet somehow remember? Why, after all these years of faithful service, of quiet obedience, of praying until your knees went numb, why does it still feel like heaven is holding its breath, waiting to exhale something over your life? Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The heavens are restless tonight. Something ancient is stirring. Something invisible is moving across the spiritual landscape, like thunder rolling through unseen realms. And if your spirit led you here, if you felt pulled to this message like a compass finding true north, it's because your name is being whispered in the throne room right now. You've been walking through the fog for so long, haven't you? Watching younger generations receive their miracles while you've been faithful in the shadows. Smiling through another Sunday while carrying a secret weight no one else can see. Wondering if God forgot about the promises he whispered over you decades ago. But what if I told you that the silence wasn't abandonment? What if every closed door, every delayed answer, every season of waiting was actually God clearing the runway for a divine collision between your faithfulness and his perfect timing? This Sunday, yes, this Sunday is not just another date on your calendar. It's a divine appointment that's been marked in heaven's ledger since before you drew your first breath. God's clock is striking again, and only 1% of his chosen ones will be spiritually awake enough to recognize what's coming. Before I go deeper, let me pause and speak from my heart. Thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. Now, if you feel this message is finding you, if something in your chest just stirred, type 999 inches the comments right now. Don't just watch, participate. This isn't content. This is a call. Your declaration creates a portal for heaven to move. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal why only 1% are prepared for Sunday's surprise, and how you can position yourself to receive what God has been holding in reserve just for you. Stay with me. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Have you ever felt like you're walking through life with a secret frequency humming in your chest, one that nobody else can hear? Have you ever wondered why certain moments make your spirit lean forward, even when your mind doesn't understand why? Have you ever asked yourself, am I crazy for still believing, or am I the only one awake? Listen to me, chosen one. You didn't stumble onto this message by accident. You didn't click here because the algorithm got lucky. Heaven pulled you here. Because this week, this ordinary, overlooked week in your life is anything but ordinary in the realm of the Spirit. And I know what you're thinking. You've heard promises before. You've sat through sermons that hyped you up, only to send you home empty. You've prayed prayers that seem to evaporate into silence. You've carried hope in your pocket like loose change, wondering if it would ever be enough to purchase the breakthrough you've been waiting decades to see. You're tired, aren't you? Not just physically, spiritually. Bone deep weary from believing when the evidence kept whispering you were a fool. You've lived long enough to see trends come and go. You've buried people who believed less than you but seemed to receive more. You've watched the younger generation chase miracles with their smartphones while you've been kneeling in the dark, whispering the same prayer you prayed 40 years ago. And the hardest part, the loneliness, the weight of carrying faith that nobody around you seems to understand anymore. Your children think you're old-fashioned. Your friends have stopped asking how you're doing because they know the answer never changes. Even at church, you smile and nod, but inside, you're wondering, does anyone else feel what I feel? Or am I the last one still tuned to a frequency that's gone silent? But here's the truth they never told you in Sunday school. The silence wasn't absence. It was calibration. God hasn't been ignoring you, dear one. He's been tuning you. Like a master violinist adjusting strings before the symphony begins, heaven has been fine-tuning your spirit to receive a frequency so pure, so precise, that only the faithful few can hear it. The prophet Habakkuk cried out the same frustration you felt. "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" Habakkuk 1-2. He was tired, he was confused, he was ready to quit. But then God answered him with words that have echoed through millennia. "Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Habakkuk 2-3. Did you catch that? It will not delay. Not it might come. Not if you're good enough. It will come. And it will arrive exactly when heaven scheduled it, not 1 second early, not 1 moment late. What if every unanswered prayer wasn't God saying no, but God saying not yet, because what I'm preparing requires a version of you that can handle it? Think about it. If the blessing you've been begging for had shown up 10 years ago, would you have had the wisdom to steward it? If the door you've been knocking on had opened before you were ready, would you have walked through it with confidence or stumbled through it with fear? The waiting wasn't wasted. It was working. Every tear you cried in secret was watering seeds you couldn't see. Every night you stayed faithful, when quitting would have been easier, was building spiritual muscle. Every morning you woke up and chose belief over bitterness, was recalibrating your internal compass to magnetic north, true north, heaven's north. You've been in the wilderness, yes, but so was Moses for 40 years before God met him at the burning bush. You've been in the cave, yes, but so was David before he wore the crown. You've been in the prison of delay, yes, but so was Joseph before Pharaoh called his name. And here's what you need to understand right now. Your delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You weren't forgotten. You were hidden, protected, preserved for such a time as this. Because what God is about to release over your life this Sunday isn't just a blessing. It's a frequency shift, a spiritual recalibration, a divine signal that only those who've been tuned by suffering, refined by waiting, and purified by faith can receive. This isn't hype. This is holy. You feel it already, don't you? That stirring in your chest that you can't explain. That sense that something's shifting in the atmosphere around you. That knowing deep, unexplainable, undeniable that whispers, something's coming. That's not wishful thinking. That's heaven's frequency breaking through. If this is already resonating in your chest, if you feel that hum, that pull, that ancient stirring, whisper it right now, wherever you are. Lord, I'm listening. Say it out loud. Let your voice become the tuning fork that heaven responds to. And then type it in the comments. I'm listening, because your declaration isn't just words. It's a signal flare telling heaven, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm ready. Don't just watch this message. Participate in it, because what's about to unfold isn't for spectators. It's for the chosen ones who've stayed faithful when faith made no sense. This Sunday, you won't just wake up, you'll awaken, and everything you thought was lost in the waiting will suddenly make sense. But first, you need to understand why only 1% are prepared, and what you must do in the hours leading up to Sunday to position yourself to receive what heaven has been holding in reserve just for you. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to tell you will separate the spiritually awakened from the spiritually asleep. This Sunday, most people will wake up, pour their coffee, flip through their phones, and treat it like just another day. They'll scroll past miracles. They'll miss divine appointments while checking their notifications. They'll walk right through open doors from heaven without even noticing they were there. But not you. You've been sensing something, haven't you? Something you can't quite name. A spiritual current running beneath the surface of your ordinary days. A tug in your sleep that wakes you at odd hours. A restlessness in your chest that has nothing to do with anxiety and everything to do with anticipation. That's heaven whispering. Stay awake. Because here's the raw truth that's going to shake you. Heaven doesn't surprise the distracted. God doesn't send divine interventions to people who are spiritually unconscious. The Bible makes this crystal clear in Matthew 25:13. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour. Watch. That word isn't passive, it's active, vigilant, alert. Think about that. Jesus didn't say hope for the best. He said watch. Like a night watchman who knows the thief is coming but doesn't know the exact hour. Like a woman in labor who feels the contractions building but can't predict the precise moment of birth. You feel those contractions right now, don't you? That spiritual labor pain that tells you something's about to be born in your life. But here's what breaks my heart. And here's what should terrify you. Only 1% will be positioned to receive what God is releasing this Sunday. Not because God plays favorites, not because he's stingy with his blessings, but because 99% of people have become spiritually numb. They've allowed the noise of this world, the bills, the politics, the endless scroll of other people's lives to drown out the frequency of heaven. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. When was the last time you sat in complete silence and just listened? When was the last time you turned off everything, the TV, the phone, the mental chatter, and positioned yourself to hear what God is trying to say? I'll wait, because see, heaven operates like an airport runway. The planes are ready, the destinations are locked in, the blessing has your boarding pass with your name already printed on it. But if you're not at the gate, if you're distracted in the food court, if you're sleeping in the terminal, you'll miss your flight. And that flight, it won't circle back around just because you weren't paying attention. This is the urgency I need you to feel right now, beloved. Not panic, not anxiety, but holy urgency. The kind that makes you lean forward instead of lean back. The kind that makes you say, God, I'm clearing the runway of my heart. I'm turning down the volume on everything else. I'm watching, because when the calendar flips to Sunday, and I need you to mark this in your spirit, not just on your calendar, the sky above your life is going to shift. You won't see it with your natural eyes, but you'll feel it in your bones. You'll sense it in your chest. You'll know, without anyone having to tell you, that something has changed in the atmosphere around you. Doors that have resisted you for years will suddenly start to listen. Phone calls you've been waiting for will come. Conversations that seemed impossible will unfold with supernatural ease. Opportunities that had your name on them but were held in heaven's vault will be released. The air itself will hum differently. This isn't imagination, chosen one. This is orchestration. Divine orchestration that's been in motion long before you ever felt stuck, long before you ever questioned if God remembered you, long before you wondered if your prayers were even making it past the ceiling. But here's the catch, and this is where most people miss it. You have to be spiritually positioned to recognize it when it comes. See, divine surprises don't arrive with trumpets and announcements. They come quietly, subtly. Like a whisper in a crowded room that only the tuned in can hear. Remember Elijah? After the earthquake, after the fire, after all the dramatic displays of power, God spoke in a still, small voice. 1 Kings 19:12. The prophet had to be still enough, quiet enough, desperate enough to catch it. Are you that desperate? Are you that hungry? Or have you become so accustomed to disappointment that you've built walls around your expectation? Have you been hurt so many times that you've stopped watching altogether? Because I'm telling you right now, if you don't position yourself, if you don't clear the spiritual clutter, if you don't intentionally create space for God to move, you will miss what's meant for you. And you'll spend the rest of your life wondering why breakthrough always seems to come to everyone else but you. That's not punishment, that's just spiritual mathematics. You can't receive what you're not positioned to catch. So let me ask you directly, are you determined not to miss this? Are you willing to turn off the noise for just one day? Are you ready to be part of the 1% who recognize heaven's movement when it comes? If you are, if something in your chest is screaming, yes, then type, I'm ready in the comments right now. Not tomorrow, not later. Right now, because readiness isn't just a feeling. It's a declaration. It's a door you open from your side so heaven can enter from his. Your declaration creates the atmosphere. Your faith builds the runway. Your expectation positions you at the gate. And beloved, your flight is about to board. But the question that will determine everything is this: will you be there when they call your name? You know what breaks my heart, dear one? It's watching people wait their entire lives for God to show up in thunder when he's been whispering their name in the kitchen all along. You've been listening for earthquakes, scanning the horizon for pillars of fire, waiting for the kind of sign that would make your doubting relatives finally understand. But what if I told you that the most powerful move of God you'll ever experience won't come with sound effects? What if it arrives in silence? Listen carefully. The world has trained you to expect the dramatic. Hollywood taught you that miracles come with orchestras. Television preachers made you believe that breakthrough always shouts. But heaven? Heaven operates differently. The world expects fireworks. But heaven travels in whispers. Think about it. When did God speak to Elijah? Not in the wind that tore the mountains, not in the earthquake that shook the ground, not in the fire that consumed everything in its path. 1 Kings 19:12 tells us the truth that most people miss. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. A whisper, not a roar, not a spectacle. A whisper so quiet that Elijah had to lean in close to hear it. And when he did, when he finally stopped looking for the loud and started listening for the still, everything changed. You prayed for thunder, didn't you? You asked God to shake your circumstances, to move mountains, to prove himself in ways no one could deny. But he sent something different. He sent peace. That strange, unexplainable peace that settled over your spirit last Tuesday morning. That sudden calm that washed through you while you were sitting alone at your kitchen table, staring at the same coffee cup you've used for 20 years. You dismissed it as nothing. But what if that was everything? What if God was so close his breath felt like silence? I want you to picture something with me. There's a widow, let's call her Dorothy, living in Queens, 73 years old. Her husband passed 4 years ago. Her children moved to different states. She wakes up every morning to the same empty apartment, the same quiet that used to feel like loneliness. But something shifted last week. Dorothy was standing at her sink, washing a single plate, when suddenly she felt it. Not a voice, not a vision, just an overwhelming sense that she wasn't alone, that someone was standing right behind her, that the air itself had changed. She turned around, nobody there. But the feeling didn't leave, it stayed. It wrapped around her like a blanket she didn't know she needed. That wasn't her imagination, that was visitation. See, most people are waiting for God to announce himself. But he doesn't need to. When the king enters the room, you don't need to see his face to know royalty just arrived. You feel it in your bones. You sense it in the shift of atmosphere. You recognize it not with your eyes, but with your spirit. This is what you've been missing, chosen one. You thought God was distant because you couldn't hear him, but he's been so close you mistook his breath for your own. That peace you felt this week, that wasn't random. That sudden release from anxiety that's plagued you for months, that wasn't therapy working. That was heaven leaning in. That was God adjusting the spiritual temperature around your life. That was the whisper wearing royal robes. Could it be that the next miracle won't come as sound, but as stillness? Could it be that what you've been calling nothing happening is actually everything aligning? Listen to me. When Jesus walked on water, the disciples didn't recognize him at first. Matthew 14:26 says they thought he was a ghost. The very presence they'd been praying for showed up in a form they didn't expect, and they almost missed it. They almost rejected the miracle because it didn't match their imagination. Don't make their mistake. This Sunday, God is going to show up. But he's not coming with trumpets and announcements. He's coming the way he always comes to those he trusts most, quietly, intimately, personally. So close you'll feel him before you see him. so gentle you'll sense him before you understand him. And here's what I need you to know. If you've felt that strange, unexplainable peace this week, if you've experienced a sudden calm in the middle of your storm, if you've had a moment where loneliness lifted and presence filled the room, that wasn't coincidence. That was confirmation, not emotion, evidence. If you felt it, if something in your spirit just recognized what I'm describing, type, "I felt it" in the comments right now. Don't overthink it. Don't explain it away. Just declare it. Because when you acknowledge the whisper, you give it permission to become louder. When you recognize his presence, you make room for his power. You thought God was quiet because he left, but he was whispering so close you mistook his breath for silence. And now he's about to reveal why that whisper matters more than any shout ever could. Because what God plants in silence always manifests in power. And this Sunday, chosen one, that silent work is about to become visible. But first, you need to understand something critical about the 99% who will miss this completely. You've been asking the wrong question, chosen one. For years, maybe decades, you've been whispering into the darkness, "God, why haven't you answered me?" But what if the real question isn't why he hasn't answered, but why he's been protecting the answer until now? What if every delay you've endured wasn't divine neglect, but divine design? Listen to me carefully. There's an architect behind your waiting, and architects don't abandon their blueprints halfway through construction. They don't walk away when the foundation takes longer than expected. No, they wait, they measure, they ensure that what they're building can withstand the weight of what's coming. And beloved, what's coming for you requires a foundation that can hold eternity. Think about it. When you were 40, praying for breakthrough, would you have been ready for what God is releasing now? When you were 50, begging for open doors, did you have the wisdom to walk through them without losing yourself? At 60, crying out for vindication, would you have handled the spotlight without it consuming you? The answer is no, and God knew it. Romans 8:28 doesn't say some things work together for good. It says all things. Every rejection letter, every financial collapse, every betrayal that left you gasping for air, every medical diagnosis that should have destroyed you, every funeral you attended when you thought your heart couldn't break one more time, all of it woven together by the master conductor into a symphony you couldn't hear yet, because you were standing too close to the individual notes. But this Sunday, you're stepping back, and for the first time you're going to hear the whole arrangement. You're going to see how that job loss in 1987 saved you from a company that collapsed in 1992. How that relationship that ended in heartbreak protected you from a future that would have buried your calling. How that financial struggle that humiliated you taught you a dependence on God that prosperity never could. Your setbacks weren't random. They were scaffolding for something sacred. Let me tell you about Tyler Perry. Homeless at 28. Writing plays in his car. Sleeping in vehicles while Hollywood told him he'd never make it. But at 50, he owns a 330-acre studio lot in Atlanta. Not because he got lucky, because every year of rejection was building something only time could construct, character that couldn't be corrupted by sudden success. Or Oprah Winfrey, told she was unfit for television in her 20s, demoted, dismissed, doubted. But at 32, she became the youngest person and first black woman to host a nationally syndicated talk show. Why then? Because earlier would have been exposure. Later would have been too late. God's timing wasn't denial, it was precision. Now look at Scripture. Moses spent 40 years in Pharaoh's palace learning leadership, then 40 years in the wilderness learning humility. 80 years of preparation for 40 years of purpose. And when he finally stood before that burning bush, he had exactly what he needed: royal training and desert dependence. Sarah waited 90 years for Isaac, 90 years of watching her body betray the promise. But when that child finally came, he wasn't just a baby. He was the beginning of nations. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born, old enough to know that this miracle had nothing to do with human strength and everything to do with divine sovereignty. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized Jesus in the temple. 84 years of fasting and praying and waiting in that same building, day after day, year after year. But when the Messiah walked through those doors, she was the first to proclaim him to Jerusalem, not because she was young and energetic, because she was seasoned and spiritually sharp. And Caleb, precious Caleb, who at 85 years old looked at the mountain everyone else feared and declared, "Give me this mountain. Not give me a rocking chair, not let the young ones fight. Give me the mountain." Because his 85 years weren't a countdown to death. They were a build-up to dominion. Do you see it now? Do you feel it shifting in your spirit? They thought your age disqualified you. But heaven calls that seniority sacred. They thought your scars made you damaged goods. But God calls them credentials. They thought your waiting meant you missed your window. But the architect was simply making sure the foundation could hold the glory. Jeremiah 29:11 promises, "For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." But notice, it doesn't say plans to rush you. It says plans to prosper you. And prosperity without preparation is a disaster waiting to happen. This Sunday isn't about getting something new, chosen one. It's about recognizing what's already blooming beneath the surface. All those seeds you planted in secret, the prayers nobody witnessed, the worship nobody applauded, the faithfulness nobody celebrated, they've been germinating in the dark. And now the soil is about to crack open. You weren't late. You were in alignment. Write that down right now, in your journal, in the comments, on your mirror. I wasn't late. I was in alignment. Because when you declare that, heaven hears it as agreement. And agreement accelerates manifestation. You've been the seed in the soil too long, buried, hidden, wondering if you'd been forgotten. But seeds aren't buried as punishment, they're planted as strategy. And this Sunday, the earth beneath you is going to move. Not because of luck, not because the stars aligned, but because your roots are finally ready. And when roots go deep enough, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what breaks through the surface. So tell me, chosen one, are you ready to stop seeing your past as wasted time and start recognizing it as sacred preparation? Listen to me, chosen one. Sunday is not a date on your calendar. It's a door. Not the kind you push open with your hands. The kind that opens when your spirit finally learns to recognize it. The kind that's been standing in front of you for weeks, maybe months, disguised as an ordinary day but humming with the frequency of eternity. You've been standing in front of doors your whole life, haven't you? Knocking until your knuckles bled, waiting until your legs gave out, believing until your faith felt paper thin. But this door, this one, doesn't require force. It requires awareness. Do you remember Jacob? Sleeping on a stone pillow in the middle of nowhere, running from his past, uncertain of his future. He had no idea that the ground beneath him was holy. He didn't know angels were ascending and descending right where he lay. And when he woke, what did he say? "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it." Genesis 28:16. How many sacred moments have you walked past because you weren't aware? How many divine appointments did you miss because you were looking for something louder, brighter, more obvious? Heaven doesn't always announce itself with trumpets. Sometimes it whispers through an ordinary Sunday morning. But here's what I need you to understand. This Sunday is charged. It's humming with divine electricity. It's been marked in heaven's schedule long before you knew you needed it. And the only question that matters now is this. Will you be awake enough to walk through? You've been feeling it already, haven't you? That restlessness, that strange pull in your chest, the dreams that feel too vivid, the random thoughts that won't leave you alone. That's not anxiety. That's anticipation. Your spirit already knows what your mind is still catching up to. Something dormant is about to pulse with divine rhythm. So let me tell you how to prepare. Not with rituals or formulas, but with posture. First, silence. Turn off the noise this weekend. Not just the television or the phone, the internal noise, the worry, the second guessing, the replaying of past failures. God speaks in stillness, and if your soul is cluttered, you'll miss his whisper. Second, gratitude. Before you ask for one more thing, thank him for what's already in motion. Thank him for keeping you alive to see this moment. Thank him for every closed door that protected you from what wasn't yours. Gratitude creates the atmosphere where miracles feel at home. Third, expectation. Don't just hope something might happen. Expect it. Walk into Sunday like you're walking into a throne room, because you are. Carry yourself like someone who's been summoned, not someone who's begging for scraps. Protect your peace this weekend. Guard it like a treasure. If someone tries to drag you into drama, step back. If negativity tries to pull you under, rise above it. You cannot afford distractions right now. This is not the weekend to waste energy on what doesn't matter. Because what's coming through that door isn't small. It's not a band-aid blessing or a temporary fix. It's a recalibration, a reordering, a divine reset that will make everything that looked dead start breathing again. What if heaven scheduled your breakthrough months ago, and this is simply the reminder to show up on time? What if the delay you've been mourning was actually God making sure you'd be ready when the door finally opened? What if the loneliness you've carried, the silence you've endured, the nights you've cried yourself to sleep, what if all of it was preparation for the version of you that steps through this door? You're not the same person you were last year. You're not even the same person you were last month. You've been refined, tested, stripped of everything that wasn't essential. And now, finally, you're ready. Before this video ends, I want you to do something. Comment your city and say, I'm expecting my Sunday surprise. Let this be a global altar of expectation. Let heaven see that you're not just watching, you're participating, you're declaring, you're aligning. Because Sunday isn't just coming. Sunday is here. The door is already cracked open. The light is already spilling through. The only question left is, will you step through, or will you stand outside wondering what could have been? Beloved, as we come to the close of this sacred moment together, I need you to hold on to 3 eternal truths. First, Sunday is not just another day, it's your divine appointment. Heaven has been orchestrating this moment long before you knew you needed it. Second, your waiting was never wasted. Every delay, every closed door, every silent season was God preparing you to recognize what's coming. And third, you are not invisible to heaven. Your faithfulness has been seen, your tears have been collected, and your breakthrough has been scheduled. But I need you to know something deeper than knowledge. You are not walking this path alone. The God who called you is still working in your life right now, in this very moment, even when you can't see it, even when you can't feel it. He is moving on your behalf. And beyond God's presence, you have us, this community, thousands of chosen ones just like you, carrying the same hope, fighting the same battles, believing for the same miracles. We are here. We see you. We will pray with you. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. If God has brought you this far through every storm, every valley, every impossible situation, why would he abandon you now at the threshold of your greatest blessing? Now, join me in this prayer. Wherever you are, place your hand on your heart. Heavenly Father, I come before you carrying every person hearing these words. You see them, not just their struggles, but their strength, not just their pain, but their purpose, not just their past, but their promise. Lord, I pray for divine encounters this Sunday. Open their eyes to see what their minds might miss. Tune their spirits to recognize your voice above all the noise. Give them courage to step through the door you've opened. Father, bless their relationships, their health, their finances, their families. Where there are closed doors, blow them wide open. Where there is confusion, bring clarity. Where there is delay, release sudden acceleration. Let them feel your presence like never before. Remind them they are chosen, they are loved, and they are never alone. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Ask for prayer. This community will surround you. And if this message stirred something in your spirit, share it with someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Your time is sacred, and you chose to invest it here. That tells me everything about your heart. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Every week, we're gathering as a family of the chosen to encourage, equip, and remind each other that our stories aren't over. Go now, chosen one. Walk into Sunday with expectation. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. And remember, you are seen. You are loved. You are right on time.